The wind carried the scent of rain and gunpowder over the dry prairie as Colt McCrae rode into the town of Willow Bend. His coat was dusted in trail grit, his hat brim pulled low, shadowing eyes that had seen too much. He'd sworn he'd never come back. Not after what happened the night Sheriff Callahan was gunned down. But life had its own cruel humor. The town marshal met him at the edge of Main Street, handed him a letter sealed in wax. "It's from the county judge," he said. "Says you're to take charge of the Callahan ranch, along with the widow." Colt's jaw set. "I ain't a man who takes orders from judges." The marshal shrugged. "Don't matter. Sheriff Callahan left a debt to the county, and his wife can't run the ranch alone. The only way to keep her land is a legal union, temporary, they say. You or foreclosure." Colt looked past the dusty storefronts to the White House beyond the cottonwoods. A woman stood on the porch, tall and still, a black shawl draped over her shoulders. The setting sun caught her hair, making it gleam like whiskey. Rachel Callahan. She'd been the sheriff's pride, the town's grace, and the one woman Colt had never dared want. He dismounted slowly. "Guess the law's made up its mind," he muttered. Rachel met him halfway down the porch steps, her voice low and steady. "I didn't ask for this, Mr. McCrae." "Neither did I," he said, his voice rough as gravel. "But the papers are signed." Her eyes met his, fierce beneath her mourning veil. "Then let's not pretend it's anything more than a deal." Days turned into weeks beneath the wide, merciless sky. The ranch needed fixing, fences mended, cattle branded. Colt worked in silence, his broad shoulders glistening in the heat, his words few. Rachel watched from the porch sometimes, her heart warring between gratitude and something she couldn't name. At night, the prairie stretched endless and blue beneath the moon. Inside the house, she heard him moving, boots on the floorboards, the faint sound of a guitar, an old tune half remembered. One evening, a storm rolled in sudden and wild. The sky split with lightning, and the barn caught fire. Colt ran through the rain, hauling water, shouting over the wind. Rachel joined him without thought, skirts soaked, hair plastered to her cheeks. Together they fought the flames until the last ember died in the mud. She stood shaking, breathless, her hands blackened with ash. Colt caught her wrists, his voice low. "You're trembling. So are you." The distance between them vanished. Rain dripped from the brim of his hat onto her lips. The first kiss was fierce and aching, born of exhaustion and something deeper, something that had waited too long. When they broke apart, the storm had gone still. Only the prairie wind whispered through the wet grass. Rachel stepped back, her voice trembling. "We can't." He touched her cheek, thumb tracing the line of her jaw. "Tell that to the fire, ma'am." By autumn, the Callahan ranch had healed. The fences stood strong, the herd fattened, the fields gold with grass. But the peace between them frayed with every sunrise. Rachel had begun to laugh again. Sometimes he'd catch her humming in the kitchen, sunlight in her hair, and his chest would ache with something like hope. But he was still a man marked by his past, the outlaw son of a rustler, the man who'd loved another man's wife. Then one night, word came that the same gang who'd killed the sheriff was riding for Willow Bend. Colt saddled his horse without a word. Rachel stood in the doorway, her voice tight. "You don't have to face them alone." He looked at her, his wife by law, his undoing by heart. "I do. If I don't, you'll never be free of me." She stepped forward, took his hand, and pressed it to her chest. "You fool," she whispered. "Don't you see? I was never free." The dawn broke red as blood when the shots rang out on the edge of town. By nightfall, it was over. The gang lay dead, and Colt rode back through the dust, wounded but alive. Rachel ran to him, tears cutting through the soot on her face. He slid from the saddle, his voice faint but steady. "Looks like the law'll have to find someone else to mind your ranch." She caught him as he stumbled. "You're not leaving, Colt McCrae. Not now. Not ever." He smiled then, slow and quiet, like a man finally coming home. The prairie wind carried the scent of rain again, but this time, it smelled like promise. And when she kissed him beneath the wide, endless sky, the silent prairie burned bright once more. Winter came early to Willow Bend. Frost glittered on the fences each morning, and the wind cut sharp through the cottonwoods. The prairie lay hushed, caught between sleep and breath. Inside the Callahan ranch house, the fire snapped bright, chasing the chill from the corners. Colt sat near the hearth, his arm still bandaged where the bullet had grazed him. Rachel poured coffee into 2 tin mugs, the air thick with the scent of smoke and pine. You should be resting, she said softly. He gave a crooked half smile. Been resting too long. Makes a man feel useless. You're not useless, she said, her voice steadier than she felt. You saved this town. You saved me. He looked into his cup, as if the words were too heavy to meet head on. Wasn't just you I was fightin' for, he said after a long moment. I reckon I was tryin' to save what I thought I'd lost. Rachel set her mug down. And what's that? He met her eyes, blue and dark as the midnight prairie. A home. A reason to stay. For a long time neither spoke. The fire cracked and sighed. Outside, snow began to fall, lazy, soundless flakes drifting through the black. When Rachel finally rose, she crossed to him and touched his cheek. His stubble rasped against her palm, warm and real. Then stay, she whispered. Don't make this about debts or duty anymore. Stay because you want to. He caught her hand, turned it over, and pressed his lips to her wrist. You sure about that, Mrs. McCrae? She smiled through the tears she hadn't realized she'd been holding back. I'm sure, Mr. McCrae. He rose then, slow and deliberate, the way a man does when he knows the moment might change everything. He kissed her once, tender this time, not desperate, not stolen from the storm. Just true. Outside, the prairie burned white with snow, the kind that quiets every sound but the heartbeat of two souls finding their way home. And when the first morning sun broke across the horizon, its light spilling gold over the frozen earth, Colt and Rachel stood on the porch side by side, husband and wife not by law, not by duty, but by the stubborn, blazing grace of love.